State of the Nation address happening at 7 o'clock this evening. Not pomp, not ceremony, happening this year. It's a very scaled back State of the Nation address. In fact, it's set to cost 100,000 rand, whereas in previous years it was millions of rands. That's how much the State of the Nation would cost. But not this year. Everything obviously scaled down due to the COVID-19 pandemic and all of the regulations that are in place. But of course, we have got our reporter that's stationed there, Asanda Mbetshe, and she's now going to be talking to the National Assembly Speaker, Thandi Modise, as well as the chair of the NCOP, Amos Masondo. This is when the two houses sit together. It's a big moment that this happens. It only happens once a year, and it is at this occasion. So let's have a conversation with both of them. Asanda, let's hand it over to you.
Well, good morning and welcome back to Parliament. We are indeed joined by the chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, Mr. Amos Masondo. Chairperson, this year is a big year for the National Council of Provinces. We have local government elections this year. There is a big question about how the NCOP will ensure that it does effective oversight, but also ensures that there's public participation, that it's in touch with communities and municipalities as people go to the ballot this year. How is the NCOP looking to ensure that it is really a people's parliament in 2021?
No. Thank you very much, and greetings to you and all the viewers. COVID-19 has changed the situation. We can no longer do things the same old way. So we have to adapt to the new normal. We have been able to go to municipalities during the local government week and engage and had meaningful discussions with members of the provincial legislatures and relevant municipal councillors. And to some extent, there's also been a limited interaction with some members of the community.
You've not been able to do the annual Taking Parliament to the People activity where MPs leave Parliament to go to communities to speak to them directly. Do you think you will be able to find a replacement mechanism for that in 2021?
There are difficulties, but we must also become creative, and this is what we've sought to do. One way of doing this is to try as much as we can to interact through our constituency offices. And we've urged every MPL, every councillor, every member of Parliament to utilize constituency offices to bring Parliament closer to the people. It's never really the same thing, but we'll continue to look at innovative ways of interacting with people and finding creative interventions that will ensure that we don't, as a result of COVID-19, become isolated from communities.
Mr. Masondo, let me thank you very much for talking to us this morning. That's the chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, as 2021 is a year for local government elections, saying they will ensure that people, communities can interact with Parliament, and they are an activist Parliament, a people's Parliament that will be engaged with the people even in 2021, despite the restrictions of COVID-19. We are also joined by the Speaker of the National Assembly, Thandi Modise, this morning to talk to us a bit about preparations for SONA this year, but also a big thing that people miss is that it's also the opening of Parliament. Parliament's business officially gets underway. As we get into 2021, for Parliament in 2021, how is Parliament looking to ensure that it's effective in oversight, but also it still maintains a public participation element going forward with all the restrictions of COVID-19?
Thank you very much. Yes, today we officially go into the State of the Nation.
Speaker, let me ask you to please hold your mic a bit higher so that we can hear you better. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Today is SONA. The head of state will address the nation, the international community, Parliament will be hosting on his behalf. We are ready to do this thing. It is a very unusual SONA in the sense that it is somber. This country has lost more than 46,000 people. More people are sitting on our hospitals. More are sitting at home ill. So there is not too much joy that we can say we are exuding today. The President will address us because not only have we been burying people, we've also been losing jobs. The future is bleak. So perhaps he will be able to take the nation into his confidence and tell us what he thinks he and the executive can do to mollify, to correct, to push us forward, and to make sure that as the courageous South Africans that we are, we still see a light in the tunnel. You're also right, Parliament has started working. It is not necessarily true that SONA is the opening of Parliament. Parliamentary work, the committee work, starts before SONA. So officially, I would say to you, even as I stand here, the second National Assembly Programming Committee is underway. We had said we already knew what the committees were doing last week. We would chat the finalization of this quarter's business of Parliament. Obviously, we are still anticipating to do most of our work on the virtual platforms and on hybrid systems, because we have to do that, because we, as parliamentarians, must be everywhere but also be subjected to every regulation that this country puts.
Speaker, have the virtual platforms and the hybrid platforms had a review to see if they are effective in getting members to do oversight properly?
Oversight does not mean that the minister only hears me when I'm looking at him or her 2 feet away. Oversight is about a member of parliament hearing, understanding, representing the views of the public, understanding the manifesto of his party and other parties, putting the questions. Oversight is about me understanding what the Constitution says I must do as a public representative. So whether I'm doing it on a virtual platform, on the telephone, or physically as a public representative, I must always be able to put that question, to respond to that question to the public, to take that information that I get from the executive to the people, and to take what the people tells me to represent them on in Parliament. So for me, it's a two-way street. It does not really matter whether it is hybrid or virtual. It has to be done.
Speaker, thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thank
That's the Speaker of the National Assembly, Thandi Modise, talking about how MPs will be carrying their work throughout 2021. It's time for sport. Let's go back to Joburg.